Hi, Julia Ridgmont here, and welcome to another episode of Julia Ridgmont Unscripted, the show where I give my readers the inside scoop about my projects and show them the not-so-glamorous life of a writer. And this week, I am actually in between projects, and I can hardly even believe that. It's been so long since I've had that happen. I've been working pretty steadily for the past 7 to 8 weeks on A Lumberjack for Christmas and An Agent for Amaryllis, and both of those published earlier this week, and they seem to be doing really well with the readers, and readers really like them. So I'm excited about that, and I want to thank you all for taking the time to read those stories. And if you haven't read A Lumberjack for Christmas, though, I do have a fun excerpt to share with you today. As you know, in the story, Molly, she comes from New York all the way down to Arizona to meet a mail-order groom after her beau there in New York was found cheating on her. So she made arrangements to just do something else, to run away from home and to marry someone else. Unfortunately, though, when she got to Arizona, she found out that her intended was in a very severe accident and was not expected to live. And he has 2 young children who will need a mother or a father or someone to take care of them. So Molly is, at least she has come into the picture at the right time, but now she needs a husband. So Mrs. Troondale, that's one of the passengers on the train that she met on the ride to Arizona. She has what she thinks is the perfect solution, and that is her son Brent, who is also a friend to this man that Molly was supposed to marry. So it just seems like the perfect solution. So anyway, after getting Molly settled in at the boarding house where Mr. and Mrs. Troondale are staying, because they're not permanent residents of Arizona either, and they're set to go back up north pretty soon, they all decide to get together to make a decision about these children. So this is what this scene is about. So here we go. Mrs. Troondale clapped her hands together in a no-nonsense manner. Let's get right down to it. What do you all think is the best solution for these children? When no one said anything at first, she prodded, Roy? Brant? Molly? Keep 'em, of course. This came from Roy. We're heading home soon, dear, Mrs. Troondale reminded her husband. Are you speaking of you and me specifically? Roy shrugged and said, I don't know. Gabe and Lavina might, they've been wanting a boy of their own for a long time. You think they might be willing to adopt Lindy and Everett? Mrs. Troondale replied thoughtfully. No. All heads turned toward Brent, as if just realizing that he'd spoken out loud, he straightened and added, Right before he died, I made a promise to Fred that I would care for his kids. You do care for them. Finding a home where they'll be loved is part of that. He shook his head in a stubborn manner. No, Ma, I mean care for them, as in raise them as my own. Mrs. Troondale looked at him dumbfounded. You mean you would give up your stint in South America for these children? Scratching his ear, he grimaced. Well, not sure on that yet. Maybe I could bring them along. His father harumphed at that. Forgive me for saying so, son, but that's a foolish notion. You'd be uprooting those children again a few months later. What they need is a set of stable parents. 2 of them, not just a pa. That's why Fred sent off for a mail-order bride, after all. A jolt ran through Molly at the reminder. Now all eyes were on her. Well, what? She asked as Mrs. Troondale's eyes took on that calculating gleam again. A ball of tension formed in her stomach, and she knew that whatever the elderly woman said, she wasn't going to like it. I agree with Roy. These children need both a mother and a father. If you're intent on keeping Lindy and Everett, Brent, you need a wife. And you need one soon. I'm Molly, she said. And if I may be blunt, Molly, I'd wager that you are now wondering what to do with your life, which direction to take. Molly nodded, that ball of tension ever tightening. She pressed her lips together to keep them from trembling. With a soft smile that encompassed both of them, Mrs. Troondale asked, May I suggest that the 2 of you wed? Brant sputtered, Mother, Your ma's right, son, Roy said. It makes sense for you two to marry and give those young'uns parents who will love 'em like their own. Molly caught Brant's panicked gaze and offered a wobbly smile. The Troondale's suggestion did make sense, actually. Though she didn't know Brant well, she knew that he was a good, solid man. Well, solidly built. His past wanderlust didn't speak well for the kind of husband and father he might be, however. Mr. Troondale, she addressed him respectfully, if we did marry, I would expect you not to go traipsing around the entire country on a whim. You would be financially responsible for providing the children, and for me. His eyes narrowed fractionally and he challenged, I fully intend to do that. While we're on the subject, what will you be adding to the marriage? Can you cook and clean? Gulp, he had her there. Land sakes, Brant, his mother scolded. What has gotten into you today, speaking so rudely to a lady? To his credit, his cheeks turned crimson. Sorry, Mother, there is no excuse for my lack of manners. I apologize, Miss Crisman. Apology accepted, though to be fair, you're right. I don't have much experience doing domestic chores. I would need some time to adjust. There is no time, I'm afraid, Mrs. Troondale stated flatly. You'll just have to learn it by ear. Nonplussed, Molly backed up a step from Brent and asked, So is this a real marriage proposal, Mr. Troondale? She held her breath while watching a range of emotions play across his face. The last one that settled upon it was resignation. Yes. Then, as if realizing how curt he sounded, he got down on one knee and took her hand in his. Miss Crisman, would you do me the honor of becoming my wife? I promise to take care of you and our children for the rest of my days. Our children. It would definitely be a term to get used to. Yet behind the look of uncertainty, his eyes and jaws showed a strength that she appreciated. Nodding, she answered, Yes, Mr. Troondale, I will marry you, and we'll raise Fred and Sandra's children as our own. She supposed that having children of her own was no longer an option, but at least she would have Lindy and Everett to love. Brant stood up and let go of her hand like it had been on fire. Fine beginning to a relationship, she thought wryly. So, I thought that would be a fun excerpt to share with you, and I forgot to explain, and maybe it's just kind of self-explanatory from the title of the story. Brant has been he actually comes from a wealthy family, but he's been a lumberjack for several years now, and he just kind of moves around from camp to camp, and his mother has not been very happy about that, and she's been trying to get him to settle down for several years, so you get to read more about their interactions in the story too, and that's kind of fun. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Another little note that I want to tack on to the end of this video is about Her Only Hope, and that's the next story in the Brides of Hope Hollow series. That is going to come out on August 28th, so that is the next project I will be working on here pretty soon. I'm going to need to really sit down and plot it out more fully. I've got a tentative plot. I've got a very sketchy plot, I guess I should say, very sketchy outline, but I need to fill in some details on that. And so those are my assignments for the next few weeks, and hopefully maybe even write a chapter or two on it. So, and I just want to let you know that I really do appreciate you reading my stories, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Thanks, and take care.